Welcome back to this short video sequence. Yoga highlight of the day is Warrior 1. Virabhadra, a Hindu mythological warrior, is who it's named after. We find that all three poses are meant to symbolize our internal ability to overcome ego and ignorance. All three versions of warrior create a lot of flexibility, strength, and help you learn what it is to concentrate. If ever you've attempted these, you'll find that the whole body is working, twisting, turning, pressing. It's a lot to focus on. And sometimes when we're moving through a yoga flow in a sequence during class, there isn't time to pause and think, where are my hips? Where are my heels? And so it's really important to come back to videos like this, where you can see the breakdown and practice it, because muscle has memory, and the more we practice it on its own, separate from a flow, the faster you're going to be able to nail it during the flow in class. Standing on our mat, we're going to step out to the side about 4 feet or so, and that's going to be adjusted as we get into the pose. The tailbone is being directed down towards the floor. I'm taking our left foot, pivoting on the heel, 90 degrees, taking our right foot and lining the heels up, all while rotating right foot at 45 degrees. It can also be at 60 degrees, just depends on your form and how you're built. So once we have an alignment made, we're going to lift the arms up and rotate, squaring the hips. Naturally, bringing this right hip forward is going to want to make the back arch, and it also rolls the weight to the inside of that back foot. Roll the weight out to the outside instead. This helps protect the knee. And while we're rotating right hip forward, the knee wants to bend. We use the strength of the thigh, of the quad, to press that thigh bone back behind us. However, do not hyperextend. If you find hyperextension is happening in the knee, soft bend, micro bend, until you have the strength around the kneecap to keep the knee in a straight neutral position versus going too far back. Arms are up overhead. Bending into the front left knee. Still continually pushing down and back with this back foot. Continually closing and squaring the hips. Now, directing the tailbone down gives you this great opening in the front of the body here in the hip. Being careful that squaring the hips is also making them even. I have a tendency to lift up through the hip of the knee that is doing the lunging, so I have to be careful to keep them even. Maintaining that tuck of the tailbone will allow the ribs to float. Nice and tall. And shoulder blades slide not only down the back, but together. There is a slight lifting of the chest, but it is a lift up. It is not a back bend. If you're doing the full expression of this pose, the palms may come together and you're reaching up more predominantly through the pinkies to help give you that lift. Remembering that if straightening the back knee lifts you up, so be it. Be in your pose. And the more flexible we get, the more we can inch the front foot forward and come into a lower lunge. All the while, keeping that tailbone direction down intact. If we lose it, we've gone too deep. Excellent. Straighten the front leg. Pivot toes forward and toes forward. Bring your arms down and relax. In fact, bring it together and shake it out. Other side. Take your feet out. Remember that you can experiment with the space between your feet the whole way through the pose. For me, I like to start at about 4 feet, which uses up a decent amount of my mat, and I adjust from there. Arms come up. Right foot pivots on the heel. Toes are directed straight ahead from your mat. We line up the heels and allow the back foot to turn. The toes are turning in towards the body's midline to anywhere from 45 to 60 degrees. We push the weight to the outside of the foot and then bring left hip square and in line with your right. Bending into, lunging into that front knee. Using the strength of the thigh to keep the knee directing straight, the back of the knee directing backwards. Rolling the weight into the outside of the left foot. Doing our best to square the hips and then tuck that tailbone so it directs straight down towards the floor. Allow that to lift you. Allow that to engage the lower abdomen deeply so that you can float the ribs and be taller, which helps you lift the chest. The shoulder blades squeeze together and slide down the back. And also, the shoulder blades should be pressing in a little bit. In, flatten to your back. Front knee cannot go over the toes, but instead needs to stay either in line or behind. That's a little more gentle. But this knee cannot go past the toes. Also, something I did not tell you on the other side is that the knee needs to be in line with the toes and not directing too far in or too far out. Straighten that front leg, pivot toes forward, and relax. And watch my example here. Bring your feet together, shake it out. From this direction. $90, back foot, 45. I align my heels onto one line. Left hip comes forward. I roll to the outside of back foot. And then I drop into my front knee, taking tailbone down towards the floor. So here you can see that my knee, if I take my arm out from it in a straight line, actually meets between my big toe and my second toe. Versus here, where's that line? Versus too far open, where's that line? Straight on. That's the safest place for our knees. Also remembering that the knee that we're lunging into often wants to push back and lift this hip higher. And now, even though my hips are closed and squared this plane, they need to square all the way. Straight line. Being very mindful of the back knee and any kind of hyperextension that might